Hi, welcome to DoctorSecrets.com. I'm DR, and today we're going to talk about
heartburn, or medical name is dyspepsia, which basically means indigestion. The first thing you need to know about heartburn is it has nothing to do with your heart at all, but sometimes it can feel it's in the pit of your stomach, so it can feel as though it's coming from your heart. Some people have attended emergency departments thinking they were having a heart attack when it was actually simple heartburn. So to understand heartburn, the first thing we need to do is understand a little bit about the anatomy. So if this is your mouth up here, after you eat something, you masticate it, it turns into what we call a food bolus, which is just a bunch of chewed up food. And then it passes into a conduit called the esophagus, which is a long swallow pipe. And you need that because the body basically has digestion and breathing and your heart functions partitioned. So inside the thorax, you have your lungs and heart, but there's not enough room there to include all your digestive organs too. So the digestive organs are placed down in the abdomen. So you need a conduit to take the food from up top where your mouth is and bring it down to where your stomach is and bypass the heart and lungs up here. When you get to this part here, this is the stomach, and you'll notice it looks a lot like the elbow in a plumbing system. The reason why it looks similar is because in a plumbing system you have areas where you put these elbows, which are sumps for fluid to collect. Same thing for the stomach. The stomach acts like a vat of acid during digestion, and food that comes down here stays within the stomach in this acid for approximately 4 hours digestion before it continues on its merry journey for further processing in the lower intestines. The reason why acid is so important to digestion is that the proteins inside the bolus are complex large structure molecules that are difficult to absorb. By sitting and stewing in acid for 4 to 8 hours, the acid splits apart the protein into simpler building blocks called amino acids, which are easier to absorb. Now, the lining of the stomach is a little different from the lining or cells of most other structures in the body. It's pretty unique. The cells here called parietal cells are able to secrete high pH or acidity, and in addition to that they have special structures that protect their integrity, basically stop them from digesting themselves in the process. So they secrete acid out. So each of these is a little parietal cell that I'm drawing here. Now there's several things that can stimulate this acidity, and one of the most important would be stress. The act of eating itself also sends nerve signals and hormone signals to the lining to start producing acid. Now, even though these cells are designed to be able to protect themselves from acidity, there are still tolerance limits. You can still overwhelm the system by, for example, eating substances which are acidic in themselves, causing the pH to drop so low that the lining actually starts to become irritated. If you truly overwhelm it, it actually will begin to digest itself. If the acidity becomes too great, the lining becomes irritated, and that's called a gastritis. The basic symptoms for heartburn are obviously the burning, but there are other symptoms as well, such as bloating, a lot of gas and burping, and then nausea, and sometimes even craving for food. The reasons for the craving of the food is that when the food is brought into the acidic environment, it helps to buffer it for a while. It kind of soaks up some of the acidity, giving a break to the lining of the stomach. In terms of treatment for heartburn, there's one other thing that you have to know about, and that's a bacteria that sometimes can inhabit the stomach. And that bacteria is called H. pylori. That bacteria is pretty unique because most bacteria coming into the stomach will get digested by its acid, because your stomach can produce enough acid to basically burn a hole into a rug. But this specific miscreant is a little different from most other bacteria in the sense that it has its own protective features that allow it to set up a base or home inside of your stomach and basically live like a parasite, living off the products of your digestion and absorbing it for itself. The problem with having this bug in your stomach is that this bug can also cause irritation or reduce some of the integrity of the the protective mechanisms in place between the stomach cells, allowing the parietal cells to become irritated. So if you have this bug in your stomach, you can get a lot of very bad heartburn. And there are two basic tests for H. pylori. One is through a blood test, which is called serology. And what that's checking for is antibodies to the bug. If your body's producing antibodies to the bug, it means that your body's exposed to it. So that can be picked up from a blood test. The other way of testing for this nasty bacteria is through a breath test, which is similar to an alcohol breath test. But in this case, you're checking for something called urea, which is some little gas bubbles produced by this bacteria as it lives off of your digestive products. So if you have significantly bad heartburn, you should ask your doctor to check for this bug, because it can be eradicated by using something called triple therapy. Triple therapy is basically a combination of 2 different antibiotics at the same time and an antacid, both for a period of a week. And that will smite H. pylori and get it out of your stomach. The other thing you need to realize is that there's a lot of things that you can do from home that will reduce heartburn problems. And that's basically dietary measures. A simple rule of thumb that I use is that anything that you put into your mouth that burns your mouth will probably burn your stomach too and make your heartburn worse. So some of the things to watch out for are spicy foods, so curry, pepper, acid tomatoes. Sometimes fatty foods can make it worse, not because they're acid per se, but because they stimulate more acid production from your stomach. Additional things that can make your heartburn worse: you've got your spices, tomatoes, fatty foods. Black tea, if it's steeped for more than 3 to 5 minutes, because then it starts producing tannic acid. Caffeine, so all your colas and coffee, energy drinks, they also promote increased production of acid from the stomach, so they can cause a lot of heartburn as well. So include here also colas. And then there's still several others. Alcohol, if you like drink a lot of beer or vodka and hard alcohols, they also burn the stomach lining pretty badly. And then there's also lifestyle things like smoking. Smoking has a lot of nasty irritants in it, so it promotes further irritation of a lining that's already being scalded from excessive acid. And people that like a lot of citrus, so that would be orange juice, grapefruit juice, those kind of acidic drinks, they also can cause a lot of heartburn. Now, in terms of medication treatments for heartburn, there's 2 broad classes that we use. So if you try all this dietary stuff and still having bad heartburn, you don't have the H. pylori, then the next step is using antacids, and there's 2 types. So there's H2 blockers. What they're really doing is just blocking the signals from your body to the cells that tell the cells secrete more acid. They're basically blocking those signals. And then they usually have to be taken twice a day because they don't last for a full 24 hours. But then another broad class, and the most effective one, is something called PPIs, or proton pump inhibitors, typically given once a day, and they drop your acid production by about 90%. The PPIs work directly at the level of the stomach cells, the parietal cells, and cancels their ability to squirt out acid. Acid is also known as protons or hydrogen, so hence the proton pump inhibitor. They're basically turning off the proton pumps inside each cell, and those pumps are what squirt the acid into the stomach. So these 2 methods just reduce the amount of acid that's exposed to the stomach lining. If there's a lot of irritation in the stomach, a lot of the time you only need to use these medicines for about 6 weeks, and by virtue of having the acid level drop, the lining of the stomach can regenerate itself, and after 6 weeks you may not need them any further. But if you're a chronic hypersecretor, or you chronically like eating these type of causative foods, then you may need to continue these things indefinitely. And that's it in a nutshell. Thank you for watching, and stay well.